All right, let's get a check on the equities market. Now, how do you respond to the latest hike? We know equity markets don't really like rate hikes, and yeah, we had a bearish close, 0.18% down, and we see the equity cap sitting at down about 104 billion naira. Let's look at the trading activity. That was kind of subdued there with value on deals down. Deals was down about 7%, but we had more volume, 22.03% compared to the previous trading session. If we look at the sectoral performance now, we see financial services, banking, insurance in the green. Again, the banking counter though marginally up, but we see consumer goods down 0.12%, industrial goods down, and oil and gas following that expected unchanged sentiment we see there. The top trades, GTCO, UBA, Zenith Bank, financial services again, 67.15 million US was traded for GTCO. So we see negative reaction to that latest hike there. Well, let's look at another discussion now. See, Nigeria's unemployment rate surged to 5.0%. That's with a new methodology in the third quarter of 2023 from 4.2% in the previous quarter. The latest labor force survey did show that, and recently the federal government launched the Outsource to Nigeria initiative to connect talented and skilled hands in the country with global business process outsourcing market. That's valued about $8.79 trillion. Joining us now for this conversation is Adebola, Omololu, CEO, GFA Technologies, joining me right here in the studio. Great to have you.
Hi, Laddie. Thank you for having me.
So we're seeing that this outsourcing market is getting really bullish, you know, at this time, and Nigeria is looking to actually tap into it. Talk to me about what we currently gain from that market at this time.
Laddie, I'll say to you, the name of the game is export, export, export.
Right.
We're talking about exporting crude, and then we also need to begin to talk about exporting services. If you remember, 60% of our population is less than the age of 25. So it means that we have a young population. In fact, the World Bank even says that by 2050, 40% of the world's employable people will come from Africa. We're not going to have to wait till that time. We need to start exporting our services today. Now, remember, the most important resource that Nigeria and most other African countries have, it's not oil, it's not gold, it's not palladium, it's people, it's services. The UK, for example, is a big, huge financial hub. And so basically, what we are doing in Nigeria, I guess, and as many small businesses and business owners and even tech companies are doing, is to take advantage of the strengths that we have and actually say, how can we provide services to other countries? So not just providing services within Nigeria or within Africa, how can we serve other people in the US, in the UK, and other Western countries? And so the reality is there is an existing model which has been used by many countries like India, like Bangladesh, like Vietnam, on business process outsourcing. And there you go. It's about export, 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 and let's export our services.
But do you have to travel to the country to provide your service?
Not really. That's the funny thing. And this is something that India has done very, very well. So for example, in India, you have outsourcing villages, places that maybe before now were just forests and have now been developed where you have 20,000, 50,000 people in that location, and all they're doing is providing services across the world. I was in the US recently and I had a problem and I needed to call the customer service. And of course, my call got routed to India. And in my head, I was thinking, okay, why isn't the call being routed to Nigeria? I mean, there are many other opportunities in there. So if you think of business process outsourcing, you'll be thinking of things like call centers. But it's not just that. You have knowledge-based BPO, that's knowledge-based outsourcing. So the likes of cloud architects, engineers, and things like that. You have your client-facing outsourcing. So the likes of customer support, like I mentioned. And if you really think about it, even sales support, because every company needs people to reach out to potential customers and bring more people into their pipeline. And then you have the non-client facing outsourcing, which is everything from data entry, data analysis, HR, bookkeeping and accounting, and so many other things. So as you can imagine, Literally, we can sit here in Nigeria and have thousands, if not millions of people providing services to the rest of the world.
Right. I know we've been talking a lot about brain drain, at this time. And how much of this, would create that risk of increasing brain drain?
Actually, I coined the word, would promote what I call internal japa, which means so we know the word japa typically means Africans or Nigerians leaving Africa and moving abroad.
Right.
In this case, these people can live here, can work here, work remotely, so they're literally living in Nigeria or living in Africa.
So that's like jakpada.
Yeah, jakpada, sort of. But in this case, they haven't left, so that's why it's an internal japa.
Right, so you've not left at all.
You've not left at all. You're living here and earning foreign currency from whatever country you're working in. So if you are living in Nigeria, for example, and you're providing services in the US, and you're earning money in the US currency, in the USD, it means you can live a nice life, cushy life here. And in fact, not only that, you now have companies like JFA that are beginning to provide a lot of things to facilitate that. We currently have Africa's largest tech campus. Our current capability, based on currently, we have about 1,000 workstations in there for people to actually live in Nigeria and work abroad without any issues. So, internet covered, light covered, and all of those issues, right, that we have locally. And we're expanding that capability with our partners to about 10,000 people. So literally, you can imagine companies like us and many others are beginning to say, how can we make it easy for this to actually happen?
Right, but we have some people actually, living here and working abroad at this time. But if you face that, you don't have any other, paid employment at this time, or you're just facing that outsourcing market, you don't enjoy some of the other benefits, when it comes to health insurance and all of that. How can such workers actually also inculcate that?
You actually
enjoying health insurance and all of that.
Very, very good question, and thank you for that, Laddie. But the thing is, currently, you have many, as we say, and everybody knows, SMEs form the backbone of every economy, and by extension, the freelancers and those who work for themselves or work for other people remotely. The reality is, in their compensation, they can factor in the cost of health insurance and some of those things. And sometimes if you even work in an outsourcing company, that's already covered. So I mentioned in India, not to call their names, but there are some organizations that currently hire as much as 200,000 people in terms of providing outsourcing services, and they make sure that things like health insurance are covered. However, where it's individuals, there are many, Nigeria's HMO industry has grown and blossomed. And so this is one of those things that we're exporting, but it affects many industries. So I mentioned the HMO industry. Government even begins to benefit from this because you're being paid in USD, and naturally your taxes would be paid in the foreign currency. And
money is coming in. We're trying to get all of that foreign currency in at this time.
Oh yes. Again, the name of the game is export services, export products. But the reality is that we know that just the way our economy is, services is much, much larger than even the products and oil that we export.
Right, but definitely, even though you have this service, there has to be some kind of demand. Paint a picture of what the demand looks like right now for most of the Nigerian talent.
So demand globally is huge. So the business process outsourcing industry is currently valued at $600 billion and estimated to grow to $1 trillion by 2030. Now, if you think about it, our entire economy in Nigeria is roughly about $400 billion. So technically speaking, if we were to even move the entire economy, right, into outsourcing, it will swallow us up because there is enough for things to go around. And this is one of the ways that we can actually grow our income and grow our people. If you think about it, there are 8 billion people in the world right now. Nigeria has a huge population, by any standards, of around 220 million people. So the reality is that if we play our cards right, and if we allow the private sector to work in conjunction with the public sector and the policies that the government is making, then there are opportunities to swallow our entire workforce in terms of providing one form of service or another to the global population.
Right, and talk to me, everybody wants to, invest in the next big thing, at this point. What are the investment opportunities available, in this value chain?
So, as you notice from what I've said, it's a hydra-headed value chain. So It's not just one. What many people have previously, especially venture capital investors, have really put their funds in the fintech industry, right? That's what they have traditionally done, because at the end of the day, when you invest in things that involve money, it has a way of going into other industries. However, the reality is that these days, the next big thing is actually people. You would see a lot of HR technology solutions out there if you are taking note. In fact, if you drive around the city of Lagos or in any of the metropolitan cities in Nigeria, you begin to see a lot of billboards and things like that promoting different HR organizations. You're going to see a lot more of that. Not just HR, but even things like bookkeeping and accounting companies, customer support, sales support. These are the areas that there's going to be a lot of investment in. Again, just as I said, because of the availability of people. We take this for granted in Nigeria that this is how the rest of the world is. It is not. The population in North America is aging. In Asia, it's aging. In Europe, it's aging. The whole world is looking to Africa to actually begin to supply the talent that is needed in order for business and for work to actually go on.
Right. It's quite incredible how young the African population is at this time. And it seems we're getting younger.
Just on that point, so in Africa as a whole, the average age is 19 years old. In Nigeria, the average age is 17. And remember, this is the youngest population in the entire world. So Nigeria is even younger than the African age.
Quite incredible. That's a population that has so much energy.
Correct.
At this time. Thank you so much. It was great having your perspective. Adebola Omololu, CEO, GFA Technologies. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Laddie.
All right, so that's how it's looking, the midweek trading session, and definitely be looking out for the close. That's for the Naira and the equities market, and also the fixed income market. I'm going to hand things over now back to the Sunrise Daily team. Thank you for watching.